Well, I definitely lived in the Mad Men era. And I think the real issue there was the societal assumptions for the roles of women. We were raised to believe we should get married and have children and maybe a job, but the word career was never really talked about, either by our parents, our teachers, and certainly not our bosses. And I have to say that we accepted those roles until one day, and thanks to the women's movement mostly, we realized this is wrong, and especially when so many of us were getting well educated and realized that we could do so much more and we had ambitions. So I think the worst thing about the Mad Men era was treating women as if they were lesser human beings, less talented, less intelligent, less able.
What I found when I arrived at Newsweek was not what Lynn had experienced. It wasn't nearly so overt as to be told women don't write for this magazine. It was much more subtle, where the young men around us were getting much better story assignments. They were getting raises and promotions much more easily. We sort of collectively, initially all felt like this was our own personal struggles, like we were all each having to work much harder than our male peers to get to the same end. But what we realized in time was that it was sort of something all of us were facing.
I think, unlike the discrimination I faced, which was sort of overt, and people just said, if you want to write, go someplace else. Women don't write at Newsweek. The kind of discrimination that exists today is far subtler, and a lot of it has to do with companies, organizations, corporations being run still like old boys clubs. And I think I believe corporate culture comes from the top. And I think that the person in charge has to set the culture of the workplace. And I think that's a really difficult thing to fight against, because you're never quite sure if it's something else that's going on. And so I think that women today have a harder fight in a way, because you have to identify it, you have to quantify it, and then you have to figure out what to do.
The process of working on the story and getting approval initially and then getting it published in the magazine was the most exhilarating professional experience I've had, certainly. It was, amazingly empowering to just have those conversations among our sort of female group there, and talk to one another and find that what we were experiencing wasn't individual to ourselves, it was collective and therefore sort of bigger than us.
And it's not a women's problem. It's a workplace problem. It's a societal problem. And I'm hoping that women and men will get together to figure out how to change the workplace.